Alright folks, this is a very short video on Asia, brought to you from my office in my house, not the living room. So behind me is a bookshelf and my degree. As you see, I got rid of the beard. I don't care what my wife thinks it stands for. So what we're going to look at today, again very briefly, is this whole question of holding leaders responsible for committing acts of genocide within their country. The Holocaust and World War II changed the concept of Westphalia, which had held since 1648 that whatever happened within a nation's borders was its own business, even if it was fairly horrific. That was the whole idea of absolute national sovereignty. And even World War I didn't change that, but World War II, because of the Holocaust, did. And not only did you have the creation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, largely authored by Eleanor Roosevelt, and I urge you to go online to take a look at it. And all countries that joined the UN affirm that they will abide by it, but no country abides by all of it, including us. It basically opposes the death penalty, and we still have it, along with Iran and China. Good company. Keep in mind the European Union. If you want to join the European Union, you cannot have the death penalty. And in addition to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the notion of limited sovereignty embraced by the UN, that intervention in other states' affairs is fine, is okay, is legally acceptable when acts of genocide are occurring. And that tradition was helped establish by the holding of war crime trials for the Nazi and Japanese leadership, though the focus was on the Nazi leadership. As bad as the Japanese were, they didn't carry out a Holocaust against others, although they killed a lot of Chinese, particularly in the city of Nanking in 1938, which they still deny. And at the Nuremberg trials, held in the city of Nuremberg, which was a center of Nazi support, that's where they had a lot of the big parades in there. The top leadership, not Hitler because he had committed suicide, it was the only committed suicide, but others, including the head of the Air Force, Goering, were put on trial under a program called denazification. And to no one's surprise, they were found guilty. And many of them, although in many people's minds not enough, were executed. Indeed, people like the Krupp family. Now, the Krupp family was not in the top leadership of the Nazi Party, but they were the industrial giant that helped produce a lot of the war-making capacity for Germany. K-R-U-P-P. And although the head of the Krupp family and others were in prison for a while, they got out. Their prison terms were cut short, and they came back and lived very prominent and successful lives in Germany. And the same was true with Albert Speer. Albert Speer was sort of the architect of Nazi architecture and other things. Was put on trial, but he was let out and then interviewed about his experiences in joining the Nazi Party. Oh, nice. So for some, and this is shown in the very good movie that was made about this called Judgment at Nuremberg, back in the days when they made movies about real events as opposed to fantasy. Movies now are nothing but fantasy. We live in a world of fantasy. Fantasy football. I play real football. Anyway, believe it or not. That trial was held and convictions were passed out, and we put the top Japanese leadership on trial, and convictions were passed out, particularly in Sojo. In more recent years, we've seen the case in one of the videos that I posted on Cambodia. Cambodia from 75 to 79 was just a horror story. Between 1/4 and 1/3 of the Cambodian people were just slaughtered by this group known as the Red Khmers, the Khmer Rouge, who came to power when we were on our way out from Vietnam. Perhaps helped to power by the fact that, and it's in a video I also posted about the secret bombing by B-52s, which were designed for nuclear warfare against Cambodian countryside, wreaked havoc on it, upset the agricultural balance and led to a major famine. And also the rise of the Khmer Rouge, who were nothing prior to our intervention, carried out by Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger. He appears in one of the films, denying it was not their fault. And as is shown, some of the Khmer Rouge top leadership were put on trial under the oversight of the UN. The top leader, Pol Pot, was not. He was left to die in obscurity out in some small village, and then other people who are described in the film. The head of the prison, Tuxalan, where 14,000 people were murdered, has never been prosecuted, but some were. And there were other war crime tribunals against Mr. Milosevic in Yugoslavia for, well, he was accused of genocide against the Muslim population of Kosovo. All right, I'll stop here for the moment and then come back in a minute. Don't want to lose these. You like my office?